In January 2024, the University of Calicut issued Circular Number 93933. It requires every research scholar to sign a specific declaration before their thesis can be accepted, that their work is entirely free from AI-generated contents. The logic behind this requirement is straightforward. University administrators want to safeguard research ethics, ensure originality, and prevent students from outsourcing their degrees to a chatbot. But enforcing this rule has created an immediate problem for scholars entering the final stages of their PhDs. Even those who have spent years doing completely independent, highly rigorous research are hesitating before they submit. When evaluation committees run these human-authored papers through automated AI detection software, a significant number are returning moderate to high AI generation scores. A high score effectively halts the evaluation process. A scholar who personally conceived the study, gathered the data, and interpreted the results can find their entire degree suddenly under review. This friction is not limited to one university in Kerala. Institutions globally that rely on automated detection systems are encountering the exact same mechanical failure. Binary AI-free mandates systematically flag the human authors they are designed to protect. To understand why these systems fail, we need to look at how modern academic research is actually constructed. This diagram illustrates the standard academic research workflow. The foundation consists of 3 distinct steps: conceiving the research problem, designing the methodology, and analyzing the raw data. These are inherently human intellectual processes. After the analysis is complete, the researcher moves to a 4th node, drafting the manuscript. During this phase, scholars routinely use software to check grammar, polish their prose, translate texts, and format massive lists of citations. Over the last 2 years, the companies that build these standard word processing and formatting tools have integrated artificial intelligence directly into their software architecture. When a researcher runs an entirely original paragraph through a spelling or grammar checker, the software optimizes the sentence structure. This process subtly alters the linguistic fingerprint of the text, making the vocabulary and syntax more uniform. AI detection algorithms are trained to look for exactly that kind of uniformity. When they scan the optimized text, they register the structural polish as a high probability of AI authorship, completely blinding the evaluator to the months of human research underneath. Current university policies make a critical error in categorization. They treat the use of basic structural language support tools as identical to the complete outsourcing of intellectual work. When an evaluation committee uploads a thesis into an AI detector, they expect a reliable, objective measurement of academic integrity. This diagram shows the reality of that process. If you take a single human-authored document and run it through 3 major detection platforms, you rarely get a consensus. One detector might flag 85% of the document as AI, while another claims 30%, and a third registers 12%. Even scanning the exact same thesis in the exact same software can produce entirely different scores if you run the test a few days later. The engineering teams behind these platforms are aware of the instability. They actively advise academic institutions not to use their output as definitive proof of misconduct. Turnitin's official AI writing assessment disclaimer explicitly states that their tool may incorrectly classify human-written text as AI-generated. They advise that their assessment should never be used as the sole basis for adverse academic decisions. Universities enforcing binary bans are staking the academic integrity and the careers of their scholars on algorithms that the creators themselves admit are prone to failure. To fix this regulatory failure, institutions must clearly define what actually constitutes an intellectual contribution in modern academia. This matrix separates the academic writing process into 2 categories. On the left are linguistic mechanics. This includes the rules of grammar, the translation of references, and the precise formatting of citations. On the right is the actual intellectual contribution. This is the heavy lifting, generating a novel hypothesis, designing a rigorous methodology, and accurately interpreting the resulting data. Delegating the repetitive friction of linguistic mechanics to a software tool does not erase the human work on the right side of the matrix. The core argument remains entirely the product of the researcher's mind. Academic integrity exists as long as the researcher retains full intellectual responsibility for their methodology and their findings, regardless of what software they use to check their prose. A high detection score on a grammar check is irrelevant to the question of academic misconduct, provided the human scholar remains the sole architect of the research. Leading international academic and scientific bodies recognize this separation between mechanics and original thought, and they are structuring their policies accordingly. The American Psychological Association and the Modern Language Association govern the formatting standards for millions of academic papers worldwide. Neither the APA nor the MLA prohibits the use of generative AI. Instead, they require scholars to transparently document which tools were used and exactly how they were applied during the drafting process. The National Law University Delhi has adopted a similar framework. Their official policy explicitly permits the use of AI for language enhancement and literature support, under the condition that the researcher retains total responsibility for the final text. Recent discussions among international ethics experts, publishers, and journal editors indicate an emerging global consensus. When mapped out, the contrast is stark. While the APA, MLA, and leading research institutions operate within a framework of disclosure and transparency, the University of Calicut's mandate isolates it in a zone of blanket prohibition. Absolute bans are technically impossible to enforce without catching legitimate scholars in the crossfire, and they separate institutions from the current vanguard of global academic policy. The current contradiction between university mandates, where one institution bans what another explicitly allows, creates a climate of legal and academic uncertainty for scholars. To resolve this, a unified state-level policy is necessary to ensure every researcher is held to a consistent, evidence-based standard. This unified policy requires one central pillar. It must explicitly draw a line between acceptable AI-assisted support functions, like grammar correction and formatting, and unacceptable, fully AI-generated intellectual content. We must replace the current declaration with a structured disclosure statement. Scholars should declare which specific tools they utilized and exactly which support functions those tools provided. Implementing this framework removes the paralyzing anxiety surrounding automated false positives. It ensures a consistent evaluation standard across universities, and it forces researchers to critically understand the limits of the software they use. Mandatory transparency yields a detailed record of the research process, protecting academic integrity far more effectively than an unenforceable prohibition. As AI integrates deeper into the research stack, administrators will find that technological progress and rigorous research ethics do not have to be opposing forces. Evaluation committees must permanently stop asking whether a thesis is free from AI. The only question that preserves both human innovation and academic honesty is whether AI was used transparently and responsibly.